Coming to you live from the JRE Tobacco Aladino Mobile Studios, it's the Cigar Pulpit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm the Bishop of the Burn, Nick, and today we're talking about Halloween. We're going to get into some of the etiquette for cigar smoking while dealing with trick-or-treaters. And then I also have a few scary things from real life that, I figured I would talk about. You know how things go. There's always something scary in reality. But anyway, first things first, though, we're going to fire up a cigar. And for those of you on the YouTube who have noticed that I have the ambiance going, it's rather dark and I have my candle and all this kind of crap. I'm going to turn on a light because I can't see to cut and light my cigar. So there we go. Now we have light. Let there be light. And I will blow out my candle because I don't want the lavender, to be going everywhere. Anyway, yes. There. I did my spooky intro. That's what mattered. Anyway, guys, so today I will be smoking a cigar that perhaps is a little spooky to some people. Some people might be a little intimidated by it, but not me. I'm smoking this thing because I enjoy it. I don't have many of them left, but I do have a few, and I figured why not? This will be good for today. So today I will be smoking the world's strongest cigar. It is a 6x56 Toro made for the 2024 New England Cigar Expo. The world's strongest cigar is a specific brand of cigar produced by HVC Cigars, made with high-strength Nicaraguan tobaccos like double binders from Jalapa's Corojo 99 and Ligero leaves from Jalapa and Esteli. So, it's a strong, strong cigar. And some people, it may be a little too strong for them. But anyway, it's time to cut the cigar. And the official cutting is brought to you by 2guyscigars.com. That's the number 2guyscigars.com. Two Guys have been around for 40 years, and they are the trusted name in the cigar industry. Everybody knows Two Guys, but if you don't, please give them a try. You won't be sorry. Family owned and operated, 2guyscigars.com does the very best to provide a great selection, fair prices, and excellent customer service. So head on over to 2guyscigars.com for your next cigar purchase. Tell them that the Cigar Pulpit sent you, and remember, that's the number 2guyscigars.com. And with that, it's time to go ahead and cut the cigar. And literally, as I was doing that, the propane canister on my little heater here ran out, and I need to swap that out because it is just chilly enough in the JRE Tobacco Aladino Studios, known as my garage, that I have to make sure I have heat. We're in that time of the year where sitting out here in the evening can get a smite bit chilly. I'm swapping up. This is not something I want to do on the show. Sometimes threading the canister into the little thing is not the easiest in the world. I don't know why. You would think it would be fairly cut and dry, but for whatever reason, getting it started and threading it is sometimes not the easiest thing to do. And there we go. Get that thing going there. Nice and tight. I tell you what, I did buy the adapter from a little buddy to hook in my propane tank from my barbecue grill. And the goal is to get that going. There we go. That way I can just use that. I mean, why? I'd rather than swap out for these 1 pound cans that last like 4 hours. I'd much rather use the big one and, have that for quite a while. But anyway, that's a whole different thing. So we're going to cut the cigar and we'll give this guy a cut. I still deprive myself some of the light. I have 3 lights. Those people that have never been in my garage, which is very few. I do have 3 lights, and normally all 3 of them are going. However, tonight for the sake of ambiance in the beginning of the show, I turned off all but one, which is essentially on nightlight mode, and my candle. And now I have one full light on, but it's over there. And so over here is really dark. That makes no sense to anybody but those of you watching on the YouTubes and the Rumbles. Anyway, well, while I light this cigar, why don't we listen to the greatest commercial you've ever heard?
Some say cigars are all the same. It's just not true. It's you I have to blame.
Well, I don't know, 'cause what I know, there is a cigar called Aladino Corojo.
Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. They say authentic, so we're not confused, while the others say it's a word that's just abused.
I guess that's so. They can't compete. At least I'm sure Aladino can't be beat.
Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Cigars uses authentic Corojo tobacco from JRE Tobacco. This is the greatest commercial you ever heard.
Yeah. Boy, I have smoked a number of cigars today. Because it's just been kind of one of those casual days. Running some errands, taking care of some things. And I got to sit and watch a few things, which I'll get to in the Villiger Entertainment Report. But so I did have some time to sit and have a few cigars. But holy cow, this world's strongest cigar, like I forgot. I mean, it's been at least a year since I've had one of these. And holy cow, like right off the bat, it's just getting me like right in the throat. It's like, wow, this thing does have a punch like right off the beginning. So, world's strongest, up for debate, but it's in the running. I mean, it's designed to be a strong one, so I'll give it that. But anyway, so it's Halloween, guys. Happy Halloween. Hopefully, you're all prepared. Assuming you celebrate, hopefully you're all prepared. You've got your candy all lined up for the kiddos that are going to be coming to your door. Hopefully you get kiddos coming to your door. I only recently started getting kiddos coming to my door when I moved to this house. I have never in my life moved or lived anywhere where I had trick-or-treaters, until this house. So, last year was a big year for me. I got probably, I'd say between 15 and 20. Give or take. I mean, it's not many. It's not like it was like just tons of kids all night long, but I did get some, and that was a big deal. So I bought one bag of candy this year. I made sure to get candy that I don't really particularly care for, so that if there's any left over, it'll be very easy to throw away or donate to somebody else. I won't be tempted to eat it myself. And I've got candy for everybody. Hopefully they arrive, show up, and I get to do the trick-or-treating thing again tomorrow. But with that said, my plan is to be in the garage. I'm going to pop the garage door, and I will sit like kind of on the edge. I'll have my little buddy heater, by my feet, and I'll hand out candy to the kiddos that come up. But I'll have a cigar going, because you know what? It's my night too. But that got me thinking. There has to be some rules, some etiquette, about smoking cigars on Halloween, because you're going to be smoking around kids and everything else. We gotta do this polite. Cigar smokers are polite people. We're not the kind of person that's going to just fire up in the middle of a crowd of people and we don't give a shit, what anybody thinks of it. We find our spots. We go to the edge. We find our spots. We're conscious of our surroundings. We're not going to just be that guy who just fires up and everybody else, well, they have to deal with it. We're aware of our surroundings and how our smoking affects other people. So to that end, I have the rules of Halloween cigar smoker etiquette. It's one of the few times where we get to stand outside and, enjoy a cigar while we're doing a public activity. So let's not ruin it. So the first rule, let's not blast trick-or-treaters with smoke. Kids don't need to walk through a fog bank to get their mini Snickers bars. If you're sitting, like in my case, if I'm sitting at the edge of the garage or I'm standing there and I see some trick-or-treaters, walking and they're coming up to the edge of my driveway, that is not the time to take a real quick puff or four and create this giant cloud of smoke for them to have to walk through. That's the time to put my cigar down so that, it's minimal smoke for them to have to deal with. You take the puff as they're walking away. That way, there's maximum time between the puff and maybe the next group of trick-or-treaters coming up the driveway. It's one of those things. You want the candy to taste like candy, and you don't want the kids to be walking away smelling like an ashtray. Rule number two, and this is an important one. No ashing in the candy bowl. You might be laughing, but somebody has probably done it, probably by accident. I would hope by accident. I would think it would be a really douchey move to do it on purpose, but don't ash in the candy bowl. It's needs to be, find an ashtray. Don't use the Reese's bucket. That's all I'm saying. Number 3, this is a big one. Be mindful of costume material. Specifically, kids' costumes sometimes are made out of plastic, tulle, and flammable materials that they use like for capes and things of that nature. Let's not have one of the parishioners be the guy that's known around the neighborhood because he set Elsa's dress on fire and, turned her into a sparkler instead of the little frozen ice princess when they accidentally, were touching up a run on their cigar and hit her with the butane torch. Okay, let's just be very mindful of the materials that the costumes are made of. Now, in a perfect world, all these costumes would be flame retardant because kids are wearing them. But let's be real. I don't think these costume makers are worried about high quality material in the shitty costumes that they're selling us at all the Spirit Halloween locations around. Okay. So just kind of be a little conscious of the lit end of your cigar and any torches that you maybe have lying around. Next up, understand your audience, are you in a neighborhood that gets a lot of older kids, middle school to older kids? And by the way, I am a firm believer in teenagers being allowed to do trick-or-treating. I think that if nothing else, it's something they can do that gets them outside, off their screens and that kind of bullshit. It gets them outside. And you know what? Let them be a kid. Just because they're in high school doesn't mean that they can't still be a kid and have fun and get some free candy. I don't give a shit. I don't want the candy. I will give it to the high school kid. I don't even care if they have a costume on. It's like, just come by and just, do that. It's fine. I would much rather they be doing that than getting into trouble or, going to some party and drinking and, being stupid. Okay? Just let the kids, let the high school kids do trick-or-treating. But anyway, understand your audience. If you're in a neighborhood that has a lot of older kids, that's one thing. If you're in a neighborhood that's got a lot of little kids, look, little Timmy is not going to appreciate the complex earth and pepper notes of your Nicaraguan cigar the way you do. Okay? He's just not. So, you don't necessarily need to get super in-depth, or you don't need to be this goes back to rule number 1. Don't blast with smoke. But also, if somebody asks, what are you doing? What are you smoking? That kind of thing. You don't need to give an in-depth flavor note, course about the cigar. You don't need to tell them about, the manufacturer and the specific blend and this and that and whatever. Just be like, yeah, I'm smoking a cigar. Now, if it's a adult that's asking, at that point, make your decision. But realistically, I do think that there is this like kind of unspoken rule that if a dad comes up with his kid and asks you what you're smoking, I think you're kind of locked into a minimum 30-second conversation about cigars. And more than likely, they're going to tell you how they tried a Cuban on this one trip that they went on and how much they really like that. And you're just going to have to suffer through that because let's be real. Unless they're an actual like cigar smoker like you, they're probably going to have very minimal knowledge, and they're just going to be like, oh, I tried this when I went to the Dominican one time or something like that. Just let them do it and relate to you a little bit and, oh yeah, that's great. And then move on. Okay. Give them an extra Snicker bar, something like that. And finally, keep it friendly. Don't make it creepy. Sitting alone in the dark, whispering, Happy Halloween. While exhaling cigar smoke at people, that's not inviting. Just relax, turn on the porch light, hand out the candy, play a little music if you want. I'll probably have on some, Halloween movies on the TV here in the garage in the background, nothing spooky, I've got my things that I like to watch, and you guys know me, I'm not super big into horror, so Halloween movies generally are pretty tame at my house. But, just have a fun vibe. Don't be the creepy guy. Look, if you're sitting in the dark, blowing smoke and whispering, they may assume that you are that kind of guy that's sitting in the hotel room, sitting in the chair, and y'all know what chair I'm talking about in the hotel room, sitting in the chair, and maybe just puffing that cigar or, whatever, and be like, stronger, faster, yeah, giving direction. And we don't want that vibe. That's the vibe that gets Chris Hansen to your house. We don't want that vibe. We want the vibe of inviting Happy Halloween. Here's some candy. That's what we want. So there you go. There's my short little list of Halloween etiquette. Don't blast them with smoke. Don't ash in the candy bowl. Be mindful of costume materials, understand your audience, and keep it friendly, not creepy. That's all I'm saying. So, anyway, all right. Now, moving on to real life horror shit. This has been dominating my mind since Tuesday when this went down, and I have to talk to you guys about this. So, on Tuesday, I'm sure you've all heard of this. A transport truck hauling rhesus monkeys overturned on Interstate 59 in Jasper County, Mississippi, just north of the town of Heidelberg, Mississippi. Okay? The crates marked live animals were crumpled and scattered by the roadway, and video shows monkeys crawling all through the tall grass near the crash site. The monkeys were identified as rhesus. Oh, God, I'm not going to be able to pronounce that. Macus? Macaques. I don't know. I don't pronounce it. It's a rhesus monkey. Law enforcement from the Jasper County Sheriff's Department posted that the monkeys were, quote, aggressive to humans and required personal protective equipment to handle. They also mentioned that the animals carried diseases such as herpes and hepatitis C. They also, at some point in a news report, stated COVID-19. So you got COVID, herpes, and hepatitis in these monkeys. Tulane University, specifically its National Biomedical Research Center in New Orleans, clarified that these primates did not belong to them and they had not been exposed to any infectious agent. So you have the cops saying that these monkeys are infected. You have the university saying they're not infected. So there's some question about whether these monkeys are sick or not. As of the latest update, 3 monkeys remained at large, while a number of others were killed by authorities in the aftermath. The exact number of monkeys originally being transported remains unclear. Why is the number of monkeys being transported unclear? Are there not logs of how many monkeys were on this truck?
And if they are infected with herpes, hepatitis, and COVID, or as I've been calling it, simian herpetitis 19. I combined the three, herpetitis 19. If they are infected with herpetitis 19, why is that unclear as well? Why do we have conflicting reports about this? There's a lot of weirdness to this monkey accident, okay? The crash is roughly 100 miles from the state capital of Jackson, Mississippi. Now, even the amount of monkeys on the loose is unclear. As of the end of Tuesday, they said that they had killed 5 monkeys and that only 1 was on the loose still. Now, they're saying it's unclear how many monkeys, and there's 3, at least 3 remaining at large. So, how many monkeys are at large in Mississippi containing the potentially containing herpetitis 19? I don't know. And apparently nobody else does. These monkeys typically weigh around 16 pounds, although according to some sources, through local reports at the incident, they're saying that these monkeys weigh about 40 pounds. 40 pounds is that's a big damn monkey. And these monkeys are mean, and they will get on your face and they'll rip you apart, and it's not a fun time. Sorry, I got to keep the cigar going here. I'm getting really agitated about this monkey thing. The thing is, like I said, the ownership remains unclear because the university's saying that the animals didn't belong to them. And also, the other thing that remains unclear and is really weird is what the destination was. Apparently, the destination is unclear. The university is saying they were being, quote, provided to other research organizations. They're not saying where these herpetitis 19 monkeys were going. They're just saying they were going to other research organizations. And how did they know that they were going to other research organizations if they didn't belong to them? Are they saying they didn't belong to us because we just sold them to other research university or facilities, and so these are their monkeys, even though we just transported them? Or are they? And that's the little thing going on. I don't know, but there's some real funkiness with this. Now, what makes me concerned is the fact that you have potentially aggressive or violent 40-pound monkeys infected with simian herpetitis 19. Out on the loose. At one point, only 1. Now we're up to 3. Possibly more. Numbers keep growing. It's a weird thing. So this is one thing. And at first I'm thinking, okay, this is how zombie outbreaks start. Just because of whatever. But then I'm texting with Mike Brinker about this. And Mike Brinker literally says, dude, this is how the zombie apocalypse in 28 Days Later started. The movie. Now, okay, it's a movie. But we got AIDS from a monkey, HIV, as I recall. I mean, look, I'm off the top of my head. That could be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure that HIV, we got it from a monkey. Who's to say this little cocktail of herpes, hepatitis C, and COVID in a monkey hasn't resulted in some sort of weird, like I said, simian herpetitis 19, to where now we have some new disease that is on the loose in 3 monkeys in Mississippi. Now, granted, if there's anywhere that I think these 3 monkeys are going to be shot and killed, Mississippi is one of the states that I think can handle it. Because I'm being very, very, I'm leaning into stereotype here a little bit, but I would assume that there are a large number of firearms in the state of Mississippi. And I would assume that the folks living in Mississippi, if they have been told, shoot the monkey on sight, will shoot the monkey on sight. Just a thought. So, I feel a little better knowing that this was in Mississippi. Had this been in let's say Washington State, Portland, Seattle area, oh my God, we'd be boned. They wouldn't be shooting the monkeys up there. We'd have Planet of the Apes starting, which that's the other thing that I was thinking. I'm like, oh, great. Now we have test monkeys that have escaped captivity. They've been infected with various diseases. Have they impacted their brains? Do we have Planet of the Apes developing in the state of Mississippi? That's not outside the realm of possibility. So this whole monkey thing has really been screwing with me for all week, and I've been very entertained by it, but it is something to keep in mind. I was also going to get into the whole 3-eye atlas, comet thing going on in space. But I don't know. I don't know for certain. It's hard to find exact news. But I do think that did pass close enough to the sun, and I do think they are thinking that it's a comet. There are some weird things to that thing. If you get into it, it can be a weird rabbit hole to go down. It could very well end up being a spaceship. We could be dealing with aliens. It did come from out of our galaxy. It's one of the one of three comets ever that we've cataloged and paid attention to that, has come from outside of our, area. It's an interstellar object, and it's not going to stay in our solar system. It's going to leave. So it's a big deal. And there's some weird stuff about it, but, there's some fairly prominent, and there's some researchers that are saying that they're leaning heavily towards alien spacecraft. I don't know. I don't know if my 2025 bingo card can handle the prospect of the birth of the Planet of the Apes, aliens coming from interstellar space, and then we have the ever-present threat of AI developing at a rapid pace and eventually becoming Skynet and having Terminator robots come and kill us. Because that's the other thing. Have you guys seen this thing about these I think it's Japanese sex robots and how lifelike and attractive they are and all this kind of thing and everything? Apparently, the concern there is that they're so attractive that people are going to be, confused as to whether or not they're robots or humans. Well, if you've watched the Terminator movies, you know that the reason the Terminator robots are attractive is because they were designed that way to be appealing to the remaining humans that were, still around and fighting. And that way they could get close and kill them. So, you got to watch these robots. We need to be making ugly sex robots. That way we know that's a sex robot. We need to kill it when the uprising starts. Cause we don't need to be confused. Anyway. So yeah, so between the ever-present threat of AI, Planet of the Apes, and potential alien encounters, there's a lot to be scared of in 2025 going on already. So that's that. One other thing I wanted to touch on. Speaking of scary things, I want to touch on scary neighbors. So I'm having an incident, having a bit of an incident this year with a couple of neighbors. So I've got a guy that lives across the street from me, and this gentleman is the epitome of busybody. I am convinced, tracks every bit of activity on the street. If you've ever been to my house, I'm confident he has probably taken note of the day and time that you've arrived, day and time you've left. I'm confident he's taken note of your vehicle, possibly your license plate. I'm sure he has descriptions of who you are and everything else. This man is he's a busybody, and he's a gossip. And he shares shit. He shares news and opinions about everybody else. And if he's doing it about everybody else to you, he's doing it about you to everybody else. And I don't appreciate that. I don't like that. So I don't really interact with him a whole lot because I don't really want to be part of the neighborhood news cycle. Quite frankly, the man has enough personal issues going on that he needs to take care of his own house and not worry about my house. But he and his next door neighbor, a lady by the name of Jane, we have Jane and we have Brad. Jane and Brad, they're neighbors, and they have, for whatever reason, fixated on the tree in my front yard. They don't like it. I don't know why. I have no idea why. The tree is perfectly fine. It's big. I mean, it's not the biggest tree on the street. In fact, next door to me on that side, there's a house that has a significantly larger tree that is in his backyard, that if it were to get struck by lightning or if it were to be knocked down in a tornado or something like that, it would crush his house, depending on the angle in which it falls. Depending on the angle at which it falls, it's going to take out my garage. It may not take out my bedroom. It's not going to take out my whole house, but it could take out at least my garage, possibly my kitchen, because that attaches that way. So there's a large tree next door, but for whatever reason, Brad and Jane are fixated on the tree in my front yard. One day, while I was out and about getting my mail down at the mailbox, Brad's outside doing a little bit of lawn work, and he stops and comes over and proceeds to tell me that, if I want, this is totally unsolicited. He says, if I want, he'll, give me the name and number of his tree trimming guy. And then proceeds to tell me the history of the couple that used to live here and how they were going to get it trimmed. And they called a few people, but it was kind of expensive. And so they ended up calling the power company and telling the power company to come out. And the power company just lopped off a big chunk right around the power lines. It wasn't pretty, but it did the job. And, so there was that. So I took that as Brad basically in a roundabout way telling me you should get your tree trimmed. Now, the tree is not a problem to him. He's across the street. The tree some limbs do hang over the street. However, they're tall enough that any vehicle passing underneath those limbs will not be touched. The only vehicle that is ever touched all week long on that street by the tree limbs is the trash truck, which is tall enough that when it goes by, the leaves and the edge of the limb kind of skirt the top of the cab. It's not like it blocks the driver's view. It's not like it hits the windshield. It just skirts the top of the cab. The trash company has never said anything to me about it. Additionally, as I said, the power company has lines going along there. Tree's not in the power lines. Power lines aren't anywhere, in any way, shape, or form affected by this tree. There is no threat whatsoever from this tree. It's just a tree giving off wonderful shade and adding a nice little bit of ambiance to my front yard. So that happened. Brad mentioned his tree trimming guy. Flash forward a little bit, and my folks are over, and I was out of town or something. No, I was not out of time. They were coming into the house. They were coming over, and they were meeting me. And as they're getting out of their vehicle, Jane intercepts them and proceeds to hand them a piece of paper. And on that piece of paper is the name and number of her tree trimming guy, saying that she thought I might appreciate that for my tree in the front yard. Well, when they handed it to me, I was not appreciative of it, because this is now two neighbors that are indirectly telling me to trim my tree. Now, mind you, the neighbor that lives on that side by the tree, she doesn't give a shit. Her lawn looks like, she doesn't even trim her lawn properly, but yet they're on me about my lawn. Now, I have a tree or a lawn care company that comes out and takes care of my grass and everything else. My lawn looks good. I take good care of my house. I have, without a doubt, the nicest house on the street, and I will put that up. Anybody who visits my street, can attest to that. Luke, you've been on my street. Do I have the nicest house on the street? I think I have the nicest house on the street. But yet, for some reason, these neighbors are all up in arms about that tree in the front yard. there used to be a branch. There was a branch off the front of the tree, near the street, not on the street, that did start leaning low. So when you parked along the curb in front of my house and you were on the passenger side, when you were getting out, there were some leaves like right there. And it was fine. It was one of those things that if you parked there and you were getting out, you knew these leaves were, you could see it. It wasn't like it was like preventing you from getting out. It was just something you had to be aware of. One day I get home from delivering newspapers and that limb is gone. Just mysteriously gone. Vanished. Right from the tree. And I find that rather suspect because that leads me to think that one of my neighbors, I suspect Brad, came over and trimmed that one limb off of my tree. He didn't bother with all the rest of it, thankfully, but he did eliminate that one limb. Now, my suspicion as to why he eliminated that one limb is because that one limb was preventing him from having clear line of sight in or to the front of my house. He couldn't see parts of the front of my house, specifically my bedroom window. So I have issues. I have issues with nosy fucking neighbors, which leads me to today. Today, I am sitting in the garage. I have the garage door up. It was a nice day today. It was close to 60. It was pleasant though. I was dressed warmly. I had my little heater going, but I wanted the fresh air. I opened up the thing and it was early afternoon, early to mid afternoon. So it was warm enough out that I could still have the garage door up. And I'm sitting here. I'm watching a movie and smoking a cigar. And I hear a voice. And at first I'm thinking, somebody out there is talking to somebody. Not impacting me. But then I hear it again and it's closer. And it sounds like somebody like kind of trying to draw attention to themselves. So I turn around and sure enough, there's a gentleman starting to walk up my driveway. So I get up, get out the garage, walking down the driveway to meet him and greet him. And I say, how you doing? He's like, fine. He said, I'm blah, blah, blah. I can't remember his name or his company name. And proceeds to tell me, your neighbor indicated that you might need some tree trimming service. And I am ashamed to admit that at that moment, I was less than cordial. And I specifically said, no, I fucking don't need any tree trimming service, and I wish they'd butt the fuck out of my business. And the look on his face was shocking. And at that moment, I immediately realized what I had just done. Immediately apologized profusely and told him that I was sorry, but this is a raw subject because I have two nosy neighbors who are butting into my life and trying to bully me into trimming my tree. And I don't believe that I want to trim that tree and that I don't need his services. And he said that was perfectly fine. He just was stopping by to see. Asked if I wanted to have his card in case I ever decided later. I said, no, I think I'm good. Thank you so much. And he left. Now, I didn't think to ask him what neighbor told him that I needed his service. Didn't think to inquire any further. Kind of wish I would have, but I didn't. What? Now we're at the point that they're literally sending people to my door to inquire about trimming my tree. And so I think I've decided that I will not trim that tree. I'm going to let that tree go until I absolutely 100% can't let it go any further. The power lines will be the issue there. And when it comes to the power lines, what I will do is when it gets to that point, I will call the power company and I will let them come out and I will let them do their ugly ass job of just trimming around the power lines. That's all they do. They just trim a little chunk all around the power lines in the tree. They don't make it look nice. They don't care about it looking nice. They just want to make sure their lines aren't impacted by the limbs. So they'll come out and they'll trim around the lines. And that's it. And I think I've decided that that tree will never get trimmed as long as I can avoid it. Because I'll be damned if I let Brad and Jane bully me into trimming my tree. It bothers me greatly. And it to the point I have been irritated about this all day. I've come up and I've come down. I've come up and I've come down. And so now here I am and I'm venting about it to all of you. But what would you do? Have any of you dealt with invasive, like bossy, nosy neighbors like this? Like, I don't want to be an asshole. I don't want to create a war on my street. But on the flip side, fuck these people. I mean, this is obnoxious. You know, who the hell does this to somebody? Who sends somebody over to somebody's house and tells them, he needs your services for tree trimming. You should go talk to him. I mean, I'm really hoping that whichever one of them sent him over was watching and listening when this went down. Because I know Brad was probably watching out his front window if it was him, and I'm sure he was taking notes. And if it was Jane, she's probably on her porch listening, from over there. I'm hoping one of them heard, and I was none too quiet. I didn't scream, I didn't yell, but I definitely spoke at a volume that if they were listening, they probably would have heard. I hope they heard my reaction to this so that they get the clue, because, that's not cool. And, I'm going to do everything I can now to make sure that tree gets as large and prosperous and big as it possibly can. I mean, I might start having to hose it down with some, plant fertilizer and just really give it the business. Cause, I'm not in an HOA. I don't have any rules about the size of my trees. I don't have any rules about the trimming of my trees. The only thing they could possibly do is if there's ordinances in the city regarding my tree, but my tree is not impeding traffic. It is not causing an issue there. It is not impeding the power lines, and it's not even hitting my house. So realistically, I have no trouble whatsoever letting that tree live its life, put shade on my lawn, and just look nice. So fuck them. Anyway, that's that. That's my tree story. All right. You know what? We're moving on. We're going to move on. It's time for the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report, brought to you by
Villiger.
Villiger Cigars, one of the leading cigar and cigarello manufacturers in the world, founded in 1888 and still family owned and operated. Head over to VilligerCigars.com and check the store locator to find a shop near you that carries them. We guarantee that Villiger Cigars will be a wonderful addition to your humidor and cigar rotation. I personally think that the scary neighbors are more scary than the monkeys, but then again, hepatitis C 19 monkeys, that's an issue. Okay, so Villiger Entertainment Report. I actually have some movies. I watched 3 movies over the last 24 hours. Watched 3 movies, all in anticipation of this. So again, I said I'm not a big horror fan guy. I don't dig slasher flicks. I don't like blood and guts and gore. Watching Terrifier 3 with Luke at the drive-in was probably one of my absolute, how do I put this? It was the best of times and the worst of times, if that makes sense. I thoroughly enjoyed sitting out at the drive-in, smoking cigars and hanging out with Luke. I thoroughly hated the movie that we watched. It was not a movie I ever would have chosen in my life, and yet I did. It definitely was not a movie that I would choose to see again, much less any sequels of it. So, Terrifier, it's not one for me. However, I do love old horror, and I love old sci-fi. So I watched 3 movies, and I'm going to start with the oldest one. The oldest one, the first one, not the first one, but the oldest one that I watched was the Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi from 1931. And guys, I love this movie. I have loved this movie since I was a little kid. When I went to the library had a whole series of I don't want to call them children's books, but they had pictures from the movies, and they told the stories of the movies, and they were fairly large print. So, I mean, maybe like middle school age books would probably be the best. But they had like Dracula and Frankenstein and the Creature and the Invisible Man and the Mummy and the Wolfman and all that. And you just went down the line. They had the whole Universal Monsters kind of set. And I loved Dracula. And so like I watched Dracula today. And, you know, it's sad knowing how Bela Lugosi kind of ended his life with Ed Wood and Plan 9 from Outer Space. It's sad that knowing that, you know, he's come to drug addiction and was really not in a good place when he passed away. Because my God, he was a presence on the screen in that movie. He had that stare. He was trim and tall and had that gothic kind of look going on. And, you know, he was just a commanding presence in this movie. And, you know, the guy who plays Van Helsing, I don't have the actor's name in front of me. He was fun. It's a fun movie. It's a, you know, Renfield, he kind of laughing and shit and everything. Renfield, that dude cracks me up. You know, it's a good flick. I really enjoy it. And for 1931, there's a lot going on in that. I mean, when you actually watch it and you're like realizing like, okay, this is a little scandalous for 1931. Some of the quote unquote violence, you know, and everything. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a good flick. I enjoyed it a lot. I love the Universal monster movies. They're so pure and so just like classic. I have more of them on deck. I'm trying to burn through them quickly because they go off of the streaming service. Most of them are on Amazon Prime, and they leave the Prime tomorrow, or I should say today. I'm recording this. Well, it's almost Halloween. Yeah, they go off as of at the end of Halloween. So if you want to catch any of these, you basically have today. You have Friday to do so. The other one I watched from the Universal Monsters kind of set is another personal favorite of mine. Now, this one's from 1954, and it's Creature from the Black Lagoon. I love Creature from the Black Lagoon. It's so, there's a lot going on in that movie. You have the handsome scientist, you have the pretty damsel, you have the guy who's in charge or who funds the expedition, who's a jerk and wants to kill the creature and bring him back as a sideshow, exhibition because they'll make more money doing that and everything else. And then you have the creature who's just kind of living his life in the area, but then these people start intruding and you have this whole this process, or this plot point where it starts literally in the beginning of the movie. It starts by talking about how the earth was formed and how the first life came from the ocean, and eventually one of the little fish creature things walked on land, and eventually we evolved into human beings. And what the thought on, or the process is the creature is kind of that missing link between the man and fish. So he's the gill man, and everything. And there are parts that he's just creepy. Now, admittedly, there's some parts where they show him and you're like, he's just a creature. He's not super intimidating in this shot. But there's other ones where it's like, okay, he's creepy. But it's fun. It's a good movie. And here's the other thing. Dracula, the Creature, all these Universal monster movies, they're like an hour and 15 minutes, guys. I mean, they're telling a solid freaking story in no time in comparison to today cinema length. I mean, these days, if you go to a movie and it's less than 2 hours, you feel cheated. And they're doing this. They're doing this in just over an hour. So there's something to be said about the quality of storytelling going on there, because they're doing it lean and tight, So for what it's worth, I really did enjoy Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, I also have Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and The Invisible Man all on deck on Amazon. I really love The Invisible Man from 1933. There is some awesome special effects for 1933 in that movie. If you've never watched the original Invisible Man, you got to check it out. That beginning scene when he comes into the bar and he rents the room and he goes upstairs and preps and everything, comes down, he's covered in bandages, and the people in the bar kind of giving him shit, and eventually he ends up unwrapping, and he's unwrapping the bandage, and it's just like this invisible dude. Like, you don't see him. He's just, the bandages are falling off, and like there's nothing there. The special effects in that are just, for the time, they're just outrageous. So you got to check that out. But the last movie that I watched was from 1958, and it starred Steve McQueen, and it was The Blob on HBO. And they've done remakes. They've done remakes of all these movies. But The Creature, they made sequels to The Creature. I don't know if they've made a full remake. You could argue Shape of Water, that came out like I say a handful of years ago. It might be more closer to 10 years ago. I don't know. Shape of Water was kind of a Creature from the Black Lagoon remake. Not really. I mean, it had elements, so like you could say that it was Creature-ish. But they definitely made remakes of The Blob. But the 1958 Blob with Steve McQueen, it's such a, like, you can tell it's such a product of its time, in that, like, so it's a horror flick, it's a sci-fi flick, but then also it's a 1958 teenager movie. You got Steve McQueen and his pretty girlfriend, and they're racing cars against the other teenage, ne'er-do-wells in town. And, the cops are on their butts because they're racing and doing, shenanigans and that sort of thing. And, and look, I'll admit, special effects in this movie aren't particularly great. They definitely, at one point, like, one of the big scenes in the movie involves them being trapped in the diner. Steve McQueen, his girlfriend's kid brother, and the owner of the diner and the waitress are trapped in the diner, and the Blob is covered the diner. They can't get out. If they attempt to get out, the Blob is going to get them. And they don't have much time. There's not much oxygen because the Blob is, preventing oxygen from getting into the diner. And and at some point the Blob's going to get through a seam somewhere, and they're going to, and then the Blob does get through the seam. They go down to the cellar, and the Blob's like starting to come down the stairs, and the firemen and cops outside, they think, well, let's drop a power line on the Blob and it'll kill it. And it doesn't do anything except set the diner on fire. So now they're inside, the diner's on fire, the Blob's covering them. They're going to die one way or the other. And that eventually leads to the big revelation as to how to stop the Blob in the climax. So, I won't ruin it for you, but at one point when the electric line hits the Blob, you can tell they just animated it. They straight up animated it. It looks like something out of like a Fleischer Superman cartoon. It is straight up animated. But it's a fun movie. It was, again, a little over an hour. Probably it was less than an hour and a half. I'd say maybe more like an hour 20. It's on HBO Max. It's fun. And like, it's just a fun sci-fi horror movie that you can watch. I love the creature features, from like the 50s, like, a giant grasshopper is attacking the city. We need to call in the National Guard and kill the giant grasshopper or something like that. That kind of, I love all that shit. So like, so yeah, that's my entertainment report. I watched The Blob, Dracula, and Creature from the Black Lagoon. And before tomorrow is over with, I will have also watched Invisible Man and, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein. And, Amazon has quite a few other sci-fi creature features on their platform, so there's a very real possibility that other ones are up. There was something else like It Came from Outer Space that is on there that I'm very much looking at, so that may end up getting watched as well. So anyway, that's my Villiger Entertainment Report. What Halloween things do you guys watch? Another couple of ones that I haven't watched yet. That, quite frankly, it's because it's been difficult to track down on streaming. I love the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. I think that's just an all-time classic. Watching Linus out there waiting for the Great Pumpkin, it's sad and funny at the same time. But one of my favorites, and they're hard to track down, are the Garfield Halloween special or holiday specials. So you have Garfield Halloween, where he and Odie are like pirates on a like raft and end up at like some haunted house, like going down the river and ending up at this creepy old house or something like that. I like that. It's fun. It's creepy. The Garfield Christmas is probably one of my favorite Christmas specials. When they turn on that Christmas tree and the whole family goes, ooh, and makes the little like trumpet out of their mouths and everything. I love that shit. But anyway, yeah, the Garfield Halloween holiday specials, they're hard to track down. So I need to see if they're on streaming anywhere, because if they are, then I need to see it. A lot of these things are starting to show up on like some of the premium or the free streaming things like Tubi and Pluto and things like that. So I need to see if any of them are on there. So, all right, enough of that. Let's move on. It's time to fly high with Blackbird Cigars. Blackbird Cigars offers you remarkable quality using the most delicate and finest tobacco to always ensure that you're receiving unsurpassed cigars. Blackbird Cigars strives to give you undoubted repeating flavor for every cigar you smoke and impressive quality so that you can always expect greatness. Check out their website for a full list of stores carrying Blackbird Cigars and give them a test flight. Blackbird Cigars, can't clip our wings. So I am, before I get into this, I'm rapidly getting done with the second third of this cigar, and man, the strength on this thing, it just doesn't let up. I do remember the first time I smoked it. It was a slower smoke. This one is, it's smoking, although I'm about an hour into it and I still have quite a bit. So like you're going to get some time out of it. But, I remember at one point, when I was smoking this for the first time, I got about, halfway in and I'm just like, oh, I'm swimmy. So like the world's strongest cigar, it definitely has some strength to it. So, at this point, you probably got to know a guy that has some in order to get one. But, cause I'm sure Two Guys Cigars doesn't have any more. But, if you do know somebody that has one and, you can procure one if you're interested, it's a fun smoke. It's something different and, it's got some oomph to it. All right. Fly high with Blackbird. So in January 2007, by the way, there's a theme to this. In January 2007, New York City construction worker Wesley Autry was waiting on a Harlem subway platform with his two young daughters when he saw a young man, Cameron Hollow Peter, collapse and begin convulsing. As Autry and another bystander tried to help, the man stumbled away and fell directly onto the subway tracks. Then came the terrifying sound. A train was already entering the station. Most people froze, and who could blame them? A crowded platform, a train barreling in, two little girls watching their dad, and a stranger helpless on the tracks. And at that moment, Autry made a split-second life-or-death decision. He jumped down after the man, wrapped his arms around him, and pressed both of their bodies into a drainage trench between the rails. The train passed inches above them, so close that the conductor thought that he'd killed them. When the train came to a screeching stop, Autry shouted from below the cars, "We're okay, I've got him." Both men survived. Autry's cap was even smeared with grease from the underside of the train. That's how tight the space was. He later told reporters, "I did what I felt was right." And about his fear, he said, quote, "I had my daughters with me. I didn't want them to see someone die, and I didn't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if I could have done something." He didn't act because he wasn't afraid. He acted despite the fear. So be like Wesley Autry and Blackbird Cigars, and don't let anybody clip your wings. And I figure for Halloween, the message behind that and everything would be, don't freeze because of your fear. Embrace your fear, or in this case, the horror of the holiday, and just kind of, in this case, save somebody's life. In the case of Halloween, embrace the fear and have fun. That's what I'm going for. So anyway, all All right, guys. Well, in terms of the socials, I'm available on Instagram at the Cigar Pulpit. I'm on Facebook, where we have the Pulpit Parishioners group. You can get in on the fun by joining that. I'm on Twitter/X. For those of you who want to watch the show, I'm on Rumble and YouTube. Still not uploading to Spotify. The whole music thing has me a little shook, although I am starting to get in some submissions of some music. So I might have some alternate intro music before this is all said and done that we can try out. We can have like a couple of episodes in a row where we try out some different intro music and let you guys decide. And then the newsletter. You guys are starting to sign up. I love that. Head on over to cigarpulpit.com. There's a little pop-up that comes up. All you got to do is sign up for that, and you'll be ready to rock and roll when the newsletter launches at the beginning of next year. This is not a drill. This is 6 years in the making. This is one of those things that when it finally does happen and come to fruition, you guys are going to be like, holy shit, he actually did it. But trust me, it's going to be free. It's going to be once, maybe twice a month in your inbox. I'm not going to spam you. I promise. It's going to be fun. It's going to be informational. You're going to enjoy it. So head on over to cigarpulpit.com, sign up for the newsletter. And then the other thing, just throwing this out there again, if you guys are interested in Pulpit Fest 2026, I would say stay tuned for information and be ready to act on Black Friday. So I'm going to say for right now, but just be ready. So anyway, guys, final thoughts on the World's Strongest Cigar. I dig it. I enjoy it. Not really many places you can find it at this point. So if you have some, good for you. If you don't, well, I'm sorry. I smoked something that you can't get a hold of, but it just seemed like something that I felt like smoking tonight, and I figured I could try and tie it into the Halloween theme a little bit. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time out as always. And this has been another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm Nick. Stay safe. Stay scary. Bye. Later, guys.